Aw, yeah. You're listening to The World According to Jen and Carolyn.
Hey, friend.
Long time no see.
Dude, this is the longest time I've not seen you.
Well, I saw you on Tuesday, but prior to that, it had been a good couple of
2 weeks. Or maybe even longer.
And we haven't recorded in at least 3.
Yeah.
So a sickness overtook my house, as you know. This is not fair. Summertime is supposed to be when us parents get a reprieve from disease. But no, my child brought home the flu. Subsequently turned into pneumonia, gave my husband and I the flu, and for me, it turned into severe bronchitis.
You poor thing. I've never seen you so sick.
I was out of the game for 2 weeks, missed 2 weeks of work, had to get a bunch of doctor's notes. Good thing I work for an incredibly supportive department. And yes, I'm back in action. There might be some bronchitis coughs. I'll have my husband edit them out, but I'm feeling good.
Yeah. And you're one of those people, like, for people who don't know, like me taking a week off and be like, I can't do anything. Like, that's on track. But like when you can't do something, shit's really bad. I'm like, Jen doesn't want to record. She's really fucked up. I should
Jen's not cleaning the house. Yeah. And you did. And thank you. But yeah, so ordinarily I'm one of those sick people where I'm like, it's not that bad. This house needs to be vacuumed.
No.
I can't sit still.
Sit still.
This, I was like, I don't even want to watch TV because
really
the
bad.
Flu has my head humming and too many food commercials. I'm like, everything looks disgusting. I'm like, I do not want to look at a fucking Arby's busted ass roast beef sandwich right now. I will toss my cookies.
No.
Anyway, enough about being sick. Happy summer, bro. Here's to good health.
Yay.
So we are talking about health today to an extent. We are going to be talking about unpacking vaccine hesitancy and the autism myth. So, we're tackling I think it's one of the most persistent and damaging myths in modern medicine, that autism comes from vaccines.
Yes.
We know better.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are plenty of people out there who don't.
It's criminal.
So, yeah.
It's criminal.
It's been thoroughly debunked by decades of research, and this false claim continues to drive vaccine hesitancy across communities. It's only been made worse by crazy-ass RFK becoming the head of Health and Human Services.
I can't listen to that guy.
I know.
Like literally, I can't.
It's his
tolerate.
brainworm. Be sympathetic.
No, he sounds. It's grating to listen to him, and then the nonsense that spews out of his mouth.
I know.
I'm like, how does anyone take you seriously?
He's a disgrace as a Kennedy. So he is one of the loudest voices in terms of vaccine skepticism. I think he liquidated the entire department that's responsible for vetting the efficacy, safety, et cetera, of vaccines. And he's like, we need to reevaluate. No, bitch, we don't. I'm a mom. We do not need to reevaluate.
But people are like this way with all vaccines.
Oh my God.
Especially it's like that you start and it's weird that we haven't done an episode on this yet.
I know. Well, I feel like it's hit ahead.
Yeah.
And, we need to explore where this myth came from, why it continues to stick around, and how we can move forward with science and compassion, I guess. Because that's important.
Science.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be compassionate. So
that's sweet of you.
Carolyn, I know. Usually you're the compassionate one. What's going on? Being sick has made me, compassion isn't weakness, but being sick.
I'm a little burnt out. I'm a little burnt
fatigue.
out. I've got massive compassion fatigue. I've been working more, which is great. But it's pretty dark out there.
That's okay. I will delve into the darkness with you. I have no problem with that. Let's get dark, baby.
Let's do it.
So, Carolyn, speaking of your job, I know you're someone who works with children on the spectrum. And how angry does it make you if and when you run across people who are insistent that autism comes from vaccines?
How dare you?
I know.
Basically, I have been working with children and adults, and from very high functioning to very severe.
Yeah.
And they are some of the most lovely people and lovely families. And there's some really, really good organizations out there.
Yeah.
And it's really complicated. And I understand that. Again, I'm not of this community. I can't speak to it in that sense. But as a provider, like you said, let's start off just with the crystal clearness that vaccines do not cause autism.
Right.
Full stop. And that's been studied to death. It's been debunked over and over. But what really pisses me off, and I think what pisses off this community and parents and families, is this conspiracy of what it actually reveals about how people view autism. And that it's this tragic fate and that it's worse than any deadly disease. You know, I think anyone...
Like what RFK just said.
Anyone in the disability community or in the, you know, it's like... that alone is a marker on you. And yes, you know, to say that a parent would rather risk their child dying from the measles than having an autistic child. And again, I don't think I'm not aware. The miracle of autism is not for that's not true for a lot of people.
Right.
Yes, these are it can be incredibly difficult to have a child that is violent towards you or towards themselves or shit, you know, smearing shit on the walls. I'm not saying any of that is fun. That's totally separate. Right. Yeah. And this is also the reality that many parents and families deal with. But again, it tells you how our society views neurodivergency and anything that's different. Yeah. And that's the real tragedy of autism, is that I feel like it's an obsession with finding someone to blame or some environmental toxin, or we need to eliminate something, instead of just accepting on the whole that every single one of us is different. Yeah. People on the spectrum just have a more highlighted view. And so much of what we can credit happening in our world is because of disabled people.
Yes, absolutely. They don't get the credit that that they deserve.
Texting, voicemail, you can thank Temple Grandin for everything related to agriculture. Like the way their minds work is brilliant. And RFK and others just pushing this stupid fucking theory. It's so archaic. It feels like you're going back. This whole administration feels like you're going back in time. Sure. But, you know, it's this preventable tragedy.
Well, it's an affront to the community, too, because so many folks, and again, I'm not a member of this community. My child does not, you know, have autism, but I know there are plenty of people in the autism community who want to be seen and valued for who they are and don't see having autism as a deficit.
No disability is a deficit. Right. And we're all in some capacity going to deal with something. The fact that you're alive and you're living, you have invaluable rights. Yeah, I agree. And you need that. And so it's just that anything that says like, oh, you're not normal. Yeah. Well, what's normal now? And it's all wrapped into racism and, you know, just all these different ways.
Well, there's all these intersectional identities.
People feel bad about who they are. Yeah. And, you know, so I don't like it. Yeah. How dare you?
Good. I mean, it infuriates me. I stopped talking to this friend of Bill. They have a wife who is an extreme anti-vaxxer. Yeah. I had to cut this person out of my life.
Well, there's no talking.
Well, and it's damaging. Like, you are a threat, especially this person teaches special education. So they're in a position of, you know, somewhat authority. Worse. So they're out there promoting these ideas. Somebody with, I think, a master's degree, somebody who works as an educator and is therefore viewed by many as a person in authority, a person who has knowledge, when in actuality, they're promoting dangerous junk science. Absolutely. There's a person I went to high school with who all this week, for some reason, has been putting anti-vax shit on their Facebook page. And I'm like, I was in high school biology with you. You're not that smart. Like, you should not be promoting anything even remotely scientific. Like, you're a bartender. No shade. I love my bartenders, but I don't go to them
scope of practice
for medical advice. Please, for the love of God, stay in your lane. So, yes, this is something that I think you and I feel so strongly about, that we will sever relationships with people who promote this sort of dangerous junk science. So, you know, I want to talk about where all this nonsense started. So it all began in 1998 when a British gastroenterologist named Andrew Wakefield.
My name is Wakefield.
I'm carrying the wind. Thanks for all you've shown us. Yeah, we're bastardizing some Weezer here. Definitely not as cool as Weezer. Published a paper, this guy, in The Lancet, suggesting a link between the MMR vaccine, which my child thankfully has, which is measles, mumps, and rubella, and the autism spectrum disorders. So he claimed that 8 out of 12 children in his small, uncontrolled study developed autism shortly after receiving the vaccine.
Not even statistically possible. And that's a terrible study.
Oh, yeah. Well, just okay. Listen to how he did it and why he's been not only debunked, but has lost his medical license. He manipulated data. He altered medical records to support his claim. For example, several children had pre-existing developmental issues that weren't disclosed. Timelines of when symptoms began were fabricated to imply a connection with vaccination. He also failed to disclose that he had been paid by lawyers preparing a lawsuit against vaccine manufacturers.
Stop.
His methods were not only flawed, but unethical and fucking fraudulent. This guy was a fraud. So, as I said, in 2010, motherfucker lost his medical license and the Lancet retracted his paper.
How did he even get in there?
I mean, he was a legitimate doctor, a gastroenterologist.
Don't they have to review shit before it goes in?
If you're lying about, and also that's such a small population, 12.
I'm surprised.
That's why I'm surprised.
Yeah.
But if you lied and manipulated the results and didn't do an actual like controlled experiment, like I can see it, but it's too small of a population to demonstrate any sort of like causation.
Totally.
Weird. Anyway, so, unfortunately, this ball was set in motion once the crazy train left the station.
That's all they need.
This asshole directed that 2016 anti-vaccine, that propaganda film Vaxxed from cover-up to catastrophe. Yeah. This is where he falsely claims that the CDC hid evidence of a vaccine autism link. There was even a sequel released just last year. Yeah. So this moron and the morons who think like him have not only done absolutely nothing to support the autistic community, they've actually, as I said, jeopardized public health. This has led to widespread vaccine hesitancy, particularly around the very necessary MMR vaccine. In fact, when we brought Liam to the ER to figure out what was going on with him, they're like, oh, does he have his whooping cough vaccine? Yeah. I'm like, I think so. I'm like, and they're like, oh, you would have had to deny it. He must have got it. I was like, oh, good.
Yeah.
I was like, we don't deny any vaccines. Yeah, all good. And they're like, good. But you can tell they're kind of walking the line. And I'm like thinking, why are you threading this needle so carefully? Like, just be like anti-vax. You're a moron. Let me educate you.
I know, right?
Whatever. I don't believe in being delicate with people who make those decisions.
Nor do I.
Jeopardizing not only their kids' health and their life, but other people's lives. So, according to the CDC,
we're going to make some enemies tonight, but I'm okay with that.
Hopefully there aren't any anti-vaxxers listening to us anyway.
Who knows?
So U.S. measles cases recently hit the highest level in 33 years, as we know. This shit is all related to kindergarten vaccination rates, which have been falling nationwide for years and are currently at 92.7%. In some communities, vaccination rates are much lower, creating pockets of opportunities for measles to spread. So the CDC says that a 95% vaccination threshold is what's needed for herd immunity. Right? We've all heard, like for the flu vaccine, for instance, it's 50%.
Right.
Measles, it has to be 95%. So in these areas of the country, like Texas, for instance, where we just saw a major actually multi-state measles outbreak, there's lower vaccination rates causing this shit to spread like wildfire. Okay. The facts, measles had been deemed pretty much eradicated. And now it's back, baby. It's back.
Hey, guess where Andrew Wakefield's currently residing?
In the U.S.?
Yeah.
In Arizona? Florida.
Close.
Florida.
Texas.
Oh, okay. That probably would have been my third guess. So what we're seeing now is that, as vaccine hesitancy grows, particularly during and after the COVID pandemic, those outbreaks are becoming more frequent. So that's what's happening. We're seeing it. It's in the news. It's fucking terrible. And so, these fools who believe this stuff, as I said, they've done nothing to promote actual research around autism. When I was at Stanford, those folks were doing research on autism because it was all predicated on genetics, where it should be. And so, as far as I understand it, again, it's genetic and we've all been endangered by this shit. What's more, RFK, someone who has zero background in science, as we said, no background in science, no background in medicine. He's the head of the Health and Human Services Organization, just exacerbating this nonsense. But as we said, this tracks with this administration.
Totally.
Full-blown crazy train, bro. Crazy train, RIP Aussie. I have to say it.
Oh, I know.
Talk about a good person.
Dude.
Do you know that he raised, it was something like $190 million from this farewell concert?
Yeah, you told me that.
Donated it to children's hospitals and Parkinson's research.
Sweet.
Oh, he's also a huge LGBTQ advocate and ally.
Dude, and started basically the
reality TV.
Reality TV.
I love the Osbournes.
Oh my God,
Sharon! It made me feel like swearing in front of my child was completely and totally normal. Thank you for normalizing that, Ozzy. We love you. I said Crazy Train, so naturally I thought of Ozzy.
Jamal Warner.
Oh, and Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Not Hulk Hogan.
Not Hulk Hogan. Yeah, he died today. We don't miss him.
No.
That he was a huge racist.
Yeah.
MAGA dude. He was part of the D-list celebrities at the RNC, like ripping off his shirt. Oh yeah, brother, MAGA.
Hulkamania.
You're dead, bitch. You're dead. Okay, back to vaccines. So, again, RFK, he has long promoted this debunked vaccine autism link and has also suggested that environmental factors are causing an epidemic of autism. He has positioned himself as fighting for families affected by autism, but many autistic advocates see his approach as harmful, as we said. We see crazy ass celebrities like Jenny McCarthy, who was, at least in the 2000s, one of the biggest proponents of this myth. Unfortunately, Jim Carrey, when he was dating her, was supporting her. I really, really pray that he's not doing that anymore because I love Jim Carrey.
He couldn't resist.
Oh, God, I really hope that he's figured it out because I love him, and he paints like really disturbing pictures of Trump and like showing the monster within. Actually, it's an external monster too. But anyway, I love me some Jim Carrey. Anyway, I used to in the Ace Ventura in Living Color days. Yeah, I had a locket with Jim Carrey's picture that I would wear on my neck. Oh, I had a 5x7 picture of him by my bed. I was obsessed. Yeah. I've always loved the funny guys. So no surprise that crazy ass Kirk Cameron also promotes evangelical-based health views and also has vaccine skepticism. Rob Schneider, who, my God, we used to love.
He sucks.
The Hot Chick is one of my favorite movies. And unfortunately, he is he's a traitor. A terrible, rabid MAGA weirdo. Anyway, so I love this quote from a Washington Post article I read that said, "Here we are in 2025 with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. firing all 17 sitting members of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, replacing them with a new, smaller group, several of whose members who have expressed skepticism about vaccines or vaccine policy. And let me tell you, when you have spent your adult life saying, let's see what the CDC recommends, but now the CDC might be infiltrated with ding-dongs, it's hard to know what your next move is." Yes, again, impact on public health. So, Carolyn,
that's a great
why do so many people continue to believe that vaccines cause autism even after it's been thoroughly debunked?
Because people believe what they want to believe and they hear what they want to hear. Yeah. And there's, again, they're afraid. And I think most people don't bother to do any research. I think they are taught, listen to what people have to say. And so it is. And, again, all of this emotionally encoded fear that people carry with them, especially when it's tied to children and especially when it's tied to well-being. Again, you could be saying this on the flip side as well, that it becomes hard to dislodge facts from fiction. And even us saying like, wow, that's weird that made it into the Lancet. I think we have to just assume that any institution is flawed, and you have to check. You have to do your own research.
They're not going to do their gatekeeping.
Funded things. Exactly. You just can't assume anymore. You just can't. And so anytime that you feel so passionately about something, but there's no research backing it up, or there's nothing kind of more concrete backing it up, that's emotional reasoning. And as you and I know, because we can think I don't think it's rigid. I think it's well informed. Yeah. But nothing you say is going to change my mind. Sure. And I respect that nothing I'm going to say is going to change your mind either. And that's fine if you're not holding a position of power and influence. But again, these are things that are emotionally reasoning. And again, even besides power and influence, when you imagine being a parent in a school, or even, in the work I do, having people question, well, is that okay? Or, is that what you should be doing for this community? It's like, well, ask them. Yeah. Don't ask me. Like, what do they want? And all these things. So, people often value personal stories over statistics. It's like, well, my friend had this happen to her. And so, and you'd go, oh, wow. Like if you told me something, I would probably believe it.
Well, it's somebody's reality, right? Perception is reality.
Yes.
And I think that those of us who value science and value statistics and data say, okay, yes, this is what I've seen, but what's the bigger picture tell me? What do the numbers tell me?
Right.
And a lot of people can't transcend this very, individualistic, almost selfish perception of how the world works.
Yes. And I think most people really don't understand what autism actually is. And that's partly because as a community, we're still trying to understand what that means. And also, do you have to understand something to find value in it?
Right. And have respect for the people in that community.
Well, hopefully as someone in public service, we just do. That should be inherent in the ethics. But again, so you add emotional reasoning to this. So if someone's going to stay stuck in their belief system, and confirmation bias.
Yeah.
So nothing I say, we've talked about this before. It's like, well, that's what they want you to believe. Yeah. Or that's what you've been fed. Yeah. Or that's this. It's like, okay, we are not having a rational conversation now. Well, it also
doesn't help that, we have social media that is largely, uncensored, for lack of a better word. And there's all this misinformation out there. And if you don't have the benefit of having formal education like we do and knowing how to discern between something that's peer reviewed and legitimate and something that's fucking bogus and from a illegitimate source, it's hard. There's so much information out there.
Yeah. Well, and again, going back to my point earlier that it's, like you said, like the misinformation of what true science is, but just this idea that autism is really a mirror for what we get socialized to fear. And that's people who are different. Yeah. Different from us, which we are all different. There's variation everywhere. You even look at a pack of monkeys, they're all different and variation in each one are individual. There's no such thing. That's what makes humans and nature amazing. Not everything's this fucking same. Yeah. But, we jump to what we're taught and what we're socialized by our families, our schools, media. There's a lot of even institutions, like you said, like with your friend who's running like a trusted figure. Yeah. That, there's a right way to be or there's a wrong way to just be a human. Yeah. And our society enables that also in how things are set up. And so what you're seeing right now is there's a right way to move, there's a right way to communicate, and there's also a right way to process the world. And that's just not true. And anything outside of that very narrow box gets pathologized and medicalized and treated as deficient, and rather than just this person is not like me. Yeah. So and also I'm not like them. Right. So what does that mean? Yeah. And, again, the same system that makes someone hate their body for not looking like magazines and teaches us to fear our minds work differently. It's all connected in this compulsive need to flatten and standardize and fix things that don't fit. Yeah. And in fact, the organization that I work for, Square Peg Foundation, that was their whole model. It's like, we are square peg, like you're the square peg. And we want to turn I wish into I can. Yeah. Embrace it. And it doesn't matter. Yes, it does matter, but that doesn't mean you don't get freedom and value and respect. And it's sort of a duh concept, but whether it's skin color or body size or gender expression, this administration, everything that we're seeing around vaccines and around autism, about trans rights and about just everything we're seeing, it gets coded as dangerous. And so if you're less than me, my privilege can still remain and I don't have to do anything different. And what you're actually doing, someone on the spectrum or someone with a disability or someone who's quote unquote different, they're actually becoming more resilient and more adaptive. The normal people are failing. Yeah. Because they don't know how to adapt. They're just being told, well, I should just get because I am. It's like, no, we have to adapt. That's part of it. And so it's actually, again, the word celebrate our differences, I know is a hard one if you are struggling. Yeah. But imagine, it's like we have these rooms at the airport that are sensory rooms. Well, imagine if the whole airport was that. Yeah. I need the sensory room, like all these things. Totally. And it's just, the world is not set up for people who don't do 9 to 5 and sit still and are quiet and follow the rules. Yeah. And those of us who do conform to that, fortunately,
what I do isn't that rigid, what you do isn't that rigid. But the people that do conform to that, if they're telling themselves that they're happy and this is all they want out of life, it's because that's what society, a capitalist society, has told them they need to do. They need to be in order to be successful and happy, etc. But it's really stifling.
It 100%
absolutely stifling. And neurodivergent people see the world differently. And those who absolutely cannot function within those spaces because it's literally painful to do so. I feel like a lot of us can actually relate to a large extent.
100%.
Nobody should be, doing these sorts of repetitive things that contribute only to, lining the coffers of the ultra wealthy. These like we're not out in nature, etc. And I think there's a lot to be learned from neurodivergent folks. And when it comes to their inability to tolerate certain things that I think most of us should be asking, well, why do we tolerate this?
Exactly. Well, when a parent's like, oh, my kid can't sit still. Like, I get this all the time. School's sending me kids under the age of 12.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, my kid needs therapy. They're this and this. And it's like, okay, we're outside, we're playing. They're totally regulated.
Totally.
And it's like, well, of course they can't sit still at school.
Yeah.
I couldn't sit still at school. I just was better. I was able to suppress it.
But we're taught in school, you have to sit still and listen and retain and regurgitate. And school isn't set up for the kid who is 100% listening to the instructor, but might need to move around a little bit, might need a fidget spinner, might need to,
a rocking chair.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But is still taking it all in and is receptive, might not be able to look you in the eye, for instance, to show that they're receptive, but is getting all of it and just processing it differently than a neurotypical person.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Yeah.
What does the science really say, Carolyn? So, that since that infamous study, dozens of large-scale peer-reviewed studies have shown no link whatsoever between vaccines and autism. Here's a few examples. 2019 study in the Annals of Internal Medicine looked at over 650,000 children. Now that's a sample size in Denmark and found no increased risk of autism associated with the MMR vaccine. U.S. Institute of Medicine concluded in 2004 that the body of evidence favors rejection of a causal relationship between the MMR vaccine and autism. A 2014 meta-analysis in Vaccine looked at over 1.2 million children. And again, no fucking connection. Not 12 children, 1.2 million children in one study, 650,000 in another. Cross-cultural, cross-continent.
Yeah.
No,
I don't get it.
Fucking link. So
I don't get it.
Autism, as we said, likely begins in utero with strong genetic components, maybe some environmental factors, none of which include vaccines. Autism spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental condition characterized by differences in social communication and behavior, as we were just illustrating. Its exact causes are not fully understood, but research consistently shows that genetics play a central role, with environmental factors contributing to risk. So genetics. There's a twin and family studies, or several twin and family studies, that show that ASD is highly heritable. And I know my friends who have ASD and who have kids who have ASD are like, duh, they got it from me.
Yeah.
Multiple genes, potentially hundreds, are involved, many related to brain development and synaptic function. Some individuals with autism have rare genetic mutations, while others show polygenic risk, meaning many common gene variants each contribute a small effect. That's why it's so hard to isolate which genes it's associated with.
Well, and I will say too, you often run into the argument that, well, like, now there's this whole, oh God, every kid has autism or every kid has the ADHD. Well, we understand these things better. And we don't accept that all kids have to sit still and do this.
And we don't put them in fucking institutions like Willowbrook and tie them to radiators. That's why you didn't see it in the past.
Yes.
They were kept out of sight. And the ones who were on the spectrum.
They were abused.
Yes, they were abused. The ones who were on the spectrum, but quote unquote functional, they got terms. Oh, they're just a little goofy. They're just a little weird. Like, no, they're on the spectrum.
Yes.
the more we know, the better we understand things and the more aware of these things we are. Yeah. So that's our autism is just one more of these things. Yeah. So just like trans folks, like people are like, oh, trans, this is new. It's like, no, it's not. Trans folks had to be in hiding. Not that they don't to an extent in this scary ass day and age, but like they had private places where they went to express themselves.
Yeah, and why do you think that is?
Yeah, because society sucks.
Yes.
But they have always been here, just like folks with ASD have always fucking been here. Mm-hmm. So the environmental factors that I mentioned, while genes are the strongest predictors, non-genetic influence may also play a role. These include advanced parental age. I experienced that getting pregnant at 37. Geriatric pregnancy, higher risk for autism. Premature birth can also contribute to it. Prenatal exposure to air pollination or maternal illness.
Okay.
Yeah. Those that's not like exposure to pollution. Like a lot of people have said, oh, it's, agribusiness and the shit that they're putting, the chemicals they're putting on plants, that's contributing to autism. That's probably contributing to higher rates of cancer.
Something. Yeah.
Maybe not autism. But
and that's where RFK will go with you on some of these things, but I'm also sometimes surprised. I'm like, but your leader doesn't believe in that. Right. Don't shit on the milk and dairy or the dairy and meat industry. RFK, you're gonna be out of here fast. But
totally.
I mean, those things, and I will say too that I think I don't know if we're gonna talk about this, but yes, when any diagnosis of anything you have, that's when I would look at. And once you have that diagnosis, are there environmental, nutritional, physical things that can bolster those, quote unquote, negative reactions? Yeah. High sugar, high processed foods, things like that. But that's the only time I would maybe call those things environment into play.
Sure. Like, is this exacerbating an existing condition, not the cause?
A symptom.
Yeah,
even.
Totally.
Yeah.
Hey, Carolyn, is that camera still recording?
Yes.
Good. Great. Camera check. Producer Bill. I love you, Producer Bill. He goes, oh, my friend Riley hit me up and said, want to do something fun with me tomorrow night, meaning tonight? What is it? I don't think I have anything on my plate. Well, you want to go to a private acoustic concert with the lead singer of Third Eye Blind? And I was like,
that's so cool.
We'll do our own tech tonight. Fine.
He always does all the fun stuff.
I know.
Dude, our tech, though, we were able to rig something with a hair tie.
Yeah.
We MacGyvered that shit. We MacGrubered that shit.
That's femme ingenuity right there. We didn't even have to use duct tape. Okay, so I want to make very clear this point. None of these environmental factors cause autism on their own. They may interact with genetic predispositions. That's it. So the most important thing to remember is that autism arises from complex interactions between genetic predispositions and early brain development with some environmental modifiers, as you said, modifiers. Yeah. It is not caused by vaccines nor parenting or postnatal experiences.
Jeez.
So, Carolyn, I think neurodivergence is beautiful. My nephew is on the spectrum. I work with some fabulous folks who have autism. As we talked about, you do a ton of therapy with young people who are on the spectrum. And there are plenty of folks out there who view autism, as we said, as a disability that we need to find a cure. And again, we aren't members of the neurospicy community, so we don't feel like we have a right to weigh in necessarily, but we do want to share with you some information around the neurodiversity movement.
Yes.
So in the late 90s, something important happened. You put this together. Autistic people themselves began organizing and advocating. The neurodiversity movement emerged, arguing that autism is a natural variation in human neurology, not something that needs to be cured.
That I personally believe we are all on the spectrum to some level.
Yeah, I think so. I think
like a Kinsey scale.
Oh, my dog's in here. She's going to knock down one of these tripods. Or sit, lay down.
Well, she sat next to me.
Yeah, she wants to be your therapy dog. Orla, lay down. Lay down. She's going to go under the table. She's our mascot. Okay, please don't knock anything over. For the love of Christ. Oh, God, she's so close to that tripod. All right. Just be a rug. Poor Orla. She's almost 11.
Is she really?
Yeah, she's going to be 11 November. She is a golden retriever. She is a living hug. She is a living rug. She lives to serve humans. Anytime I'm stressed out in the morning, she follows me around looking at me like, what can I do? And I'm just like,
that would
get out of my
irritate me more.
way. God's cursing me with bronchitis coughs for at my poor
Mocking your
dog for
sweet
being
dog.
mean about my dog. But yeah, she just wants to be near people. And I guess my kid upstairs isn't cutting
Probably
it for
ignoring her.
Yeah. We all kind of ignore her, but in a good way. So if that's a thing. So, this was revolutionary because for so long, the conversation about autism has been dominated by parents and professionals, not autistic people themselves. The phrase "nothing about us without us" became their rallying cry. The movement has pushed for acceptance rather than just awareness, for accommodations rather than trying to make autistic people appear normal, and for recognizing the strengths that come with autism, not just the challenges. So it's also controversial. There are plenty of parents of children with autism with high support needs who feel the movement doesn't represent their child's experiences. I get that.
Totally.
There's ongoing tension between the autism as a disability that needs treatment camp and the autism as a difference that needs acceptance camp. So there's fractures within the community itself. And that happens with any community.
I would think so. Yeah.
So, basically the big takeaway for Carolyn and I is that contrary to what dummies like RFK say about people with autism not being able to lead fulfilling lives and date, etc., they absolutely can. And they may even be keyed into alternate forms of communication that us neurotypicals can't really access. Here's where things are getting a little weird, but
Jen's doing this for me.
I'm doing it for you. I promised I would give Carolyn a platform to talk about this podcast called The Telepathy Tapes, which I also enjoyed very much. Now, I encourage you all to listen to this and form your own opinions. I feel like the conclusions that were reached were done so in what seems to be a very controlled scientific setting, and the results are absolutely amazing. So, Carolyn, take it away on the telepathy tapes.
All right. So I found out about this because I am an avid listener of the Rich Roll podcast. And often I hear people on there that then if I'm interested in what they have to say, I'll dive deeper. So he had a guest named Kai Dickens, and she talked about the telepathy tapes. And within like a few minutes of listening, I was like, I got to check this out. This is fascinating. Cut to me networking with most of the people that I work with in that community, and they're all listening to it too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And cool. This is like, we're all talking about this. Yeah. So this podcast is hosted by Kai Dickens, and it features Dr. Diane Powell, who investigates claim that some non-speaking autistic individuals can access information through means we don't understand, potentially telepathy. And this does link back to our episode. It was like really early on about
did we talk about telepathy? I don't remember.
We talked about like World of the Psychic. I think it was our episode on exorcisms. And how a lot of people blamed like early exorcism. Like these are people who probably were struggling
having psychological issues
or things like that. Totally. Anyway, so I think we kind of talked about telepathy, and there was like some degree you can get, and and I was like, that sounds cool. Well, this like linked me all back to. So anyway, so the podcast itself features families who report their non-speaking autistic children knowing things they seemingly couldn't know, like what happened in the other room or what someone is thinking, even what people dreamed about. So Dr. Powell, who has a background in neuropsychiatry and neuroscience, conducts various tests in these series, and they include having children identify numbers or images that only another person can see, sometimes in different rooms.
Always the mom for the most part.
For the
which
most
I
part.
thought was beautiful because the link, the telepathic link, typically exists. Oh, Orla, between the parent and the child, or the mother and the child,
which makes so much sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
You birthed them.
Yeah.
I would be interested if they did it with. They didn't have anyone who is adopted, but I want to find that out. All right. So what's compelling about it is they show their methodology, including their failures and the evolution of their testing protocols.
And there are very few failures.
Very few. And they're trying to rule out something called sensory leakage, which is subtle cues that might explain the results without telepathy. So this podcast also connects to something called rapid prompting method, RPM, and something called spelling to communicate, S2C, controversial communication methods where non-speaking individuals point to letters without support. So kind of like those boards that you'll see. And this
or an iPad.
Or an iPad.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's kind of hard to imagine, but you'll see like when they say supportive spelling, it's like a lot of people with severe autism, they can't feel where their body is in time and space.
Yeah.
So simply even just having like, they'll say like touching your hair.
Yes.
It's like, oh, that's where my head is. So they'll do this basically and they'll type.
Yeah.
weirdly very controversial. And I was like, that seems weird.
Yeah.
So the telepathy angle adds another layer. So some of the individuals, so families swear by this communication, saying they've finally been able to communicate with their children. And the poetry, the music, the writing is like,
these kids are brilliant.
They're brilliant, and they're so sensitive and lovely.
And they were written off by medical professionals. And medical professionals told these parents, your kids aren't in there.
Yep.
Don't even try. And then once they did the S2C or whatever.
Don't fuck with moms.
Yes.
Don't fuck with parents and their children.
That is the resounding takeaway for me. It's
like Lorenzo's oil.
Hell yeah. These moms, no. My kid is in there, and part of the reason why they're struggling and they're having outbursts a lot of times. Can you imagine being stuck in your body that you can't control or have difficulty controlling, and you can't verbally communicate, you can't write, you're trapped.
Yes.
And this is freedom.
Yeah.
And not only are you trapped, you're taking everything in, and you're smart.
Yes.
And people are treating you
that you're dumb,
like you're a baby.
Yep.
And the only exposure a lot of these kids got to formal education was like SPED classes where, the curriculum is geared toward like first graders.
Yep. It's disgusting. It's going to make you so angry.
It's inequitable.
It does make me angry. So they add another layer though. So some of the individuals, and this they weren't looking for, this just came out, would reportedly type independently, but still demonstrate this uncanny ability to know information that they shouldn't have access to. And it raised a very profound question. If some autistic individuals do have enhanced perceptual abilities, what does it mean for understanding consciousness, communication, and the human brain? So this is where the psychology part of me was like, ooh, this is actually very cool when you're thinking about values and purpose and who am I in this world, and what are we here to do, and what is the afterlife, and what is all this. So science is embraced. So they go way deep into that, and it's fucking wild, and it's like chills.
I know, I'm getting goosebumps.
So anyway, so science has also embraced the concept of, have you heard of savant?
Yes.
Skills?
Yeah.
Also known as savantism, which is a rare condition where individuals with intellectual disabilities or autism spectrum exhibit exceptional, often isolated cognitive abilities or skills. You also see this if someone has, a brain injury, like they'll or has something happen, they wake up with incredible math skills.
Yeah.
Like, our bodies are fucking wild, right?
Yeah.
So these skills are typically disproportionate to their overall level of intellectual functioning, but savant skills can manifest in various areas, including math, music, art, calendar, calculation, memory.
Yeah.
So one of the scientists pointed out in the telepathy tape, if science is willing to accept, say, someone with ability to play music proficiently without a single lesson, or do complex math seemingly intrinsically, why can't telepathy be another form of savantism?
Yeah.
Have you ever had that experience, even with your kid or with your dog, where it's like, what they're thinking?
Yeah. I mean, when you're truly connected to someone, you often are on the same way. Me and my husband do it.
Yeah.
But not to the extent that these kids can communicate with typically their moms.
And you see this in the animal community. They do a lot of talking about these elephants that, an elephant never forgets. Well, where do you think that comes from? Because they ritually will return to places where their ancestors have died.
Yeah.
And they have story after story. A story about Mark Twain talking about telepathy way back. So this is not new.
No, it's not. And it was really disappointing to hear that the scientific community often ostracizes people. Yeah. I mean, one of the scientists,
her license.
Yeah. Yeah. And so to me, it doesn't make any sense that if the scientific community is willing to embrace and accept concepts like savantism, like I can proficiently play the piano, even never having a lesson. Why can't this be something that we delve deeper into? They talk about it in the telepathy tapes, that materialism.
Yes.
Our science is rooted largely in materialism, that which we can kind of touch, feel, quantify,
capitalism.
Measure. Sure. And just I don't even think this is necessarily spirituality.
Right.
I think that if this ability does exist amongst this population and maybe other populations, this is just the brain working differently.
Yep.
They're on a different level than we are. And
I believe that.
What's to say, like, the scientific community, I don't know if this is actually true, if this is, a wives' tale, but like when you lose one sense, your other senses or another sense is heightened.
Because you have to adapt and be resilient.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they go into this, I don't want to go too far into it, but these spaces that people go where they all can talk and they all can hear each other.
The hill, baby.
The hill. Yeah. And it's just, like I said, it's these things that we accept with animals. You see a bird's flying and then they switch direction. How do they do that? They're not talking.
Right.
They're communicating. Well, you see this with sound.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't, it's all just electricity.
It is all electricity. And that's the thing that's fascinating. And remember, they brought in that one expert. He's an animal scientist expert, whatever. Was talking about his work with dogs and telepathy with dogs. I think it exists. And I don't think it's far-fetched or... God damn it, Orla, stop touching this. I don't think it's
Read my mind. Stop it.
Far-fetched to believe that this can happen.
Well, it's so much to me about the magic of human potential, too.
Yes.
That if I can have a conversation with myself about myself, that already defies logic. Like, I'm thinking...
Your ability to reflect and be in...
I don't know, to be able to... thinking about something, thinking about a lemon and having my body pucker. The
connection between your brain and your body and your other body, senses.
And that can, like you say, with your husband, transcending time and space.
Yeah.
It's, and they talk a lot about quantum physics. And these again, it's all fascinating. And there's people who are so fucking smart. And it's the same idea of the earth is round.
Yeah. And I say this all the time, and it's so funny. I wish I should have brought it because it connects to what we're talking about. But I'm rereading all of the Anne Rice Vampire Chronicles because we are going to the Anne Rice ball.
Hell yeah.
We need
on
a
Halloween.
Countdown.
We need
a countdown. Get ready for lots of TikToks. But there is a passage in The Queen of the Damned that is said far more beautifully than I say it, but something along the lines of these things, spirits, all of these things that we kind of relegate to another realm without the ability to quantify or prove via scientific means. It might not be that we can't use science. It just might mean we don't have the science yet to be able to measure these things, and maybe never will.
Yep.
But they're all perfectly and totally explainable via a scientific vehicle. Yes. We just don't have the vehicle yet.
Exactly.
So, and we may never.
Exactly.
We may never.
But it's so. I love the series. It's only 10 episodes. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. It's so well done.
Yeah. You can watch the experiments they conduct. I haven't watched them yet, but I want to check them out. Yeah. So, we, as Carolyn said, we encourage you to listen. We encourage you to draw your own conclusions. For me, the biggest takeaway was the power and the perseverance of these parents, particularly the moms. They knew that in spite of being unable to speak and their kids were not only in there, but they were intelligent, creative beings who could comprehend and create in ways that so few people thought possible. Their kids weren't just pitiable beings. They understood. My kid is moving the poop stool upstairs. He's dragging the shit stool because his feet dangle. And so I can hear it.
I thought it was the dog.
It's probably, no, she would never do that. It's going to show up in this. But anyway, they're able to do things and create and understand in ways that so few people, including doctors, thought possible. They weren't pitiable beings. They understood complex concepts. They could write music and poetry and make art. They could have, contrary to what RFK said, meaningful relationships. Two nonverbal, folks with autism having a beautiful relationship.
Fucking healthy as shit.
Healthy, getting, prepared to, and they apparently communicated telepathically. Yep. And they were ready to get married, and one died tragically. But
spoiler alert.
I know. I did spoil something. So
that's okay. I think they tell you that right off.
It's so contrary to what people like RFK say. Yeah. It was the neurotypicals who needed to discover out of the box ways to communicate with their children in this series, which is powerful stuff. We need to relearn or we need to try different methods to communicate with people rather than trying to get folks, neurodivergent folks, to conform with our expectations of how communication should happen.
Yep.
So that was the biggest takeaway for me. Whether you believe in telepathy or not, those themes come through.
It's going to make you curious.
Yes.
Let's say that.
At bare minimum.
At bare minimum.
Back to vaccines. What can we do? So maybe restoring some trust through transparency and empathy. To move forward, we do need more than just data. We need a dialogue. We have to listen to concerns with, empathy and address fears and share facts with clarity and kindness. Public health campaigns need to reflect cultural competency. Yes. Now, this I believe in 100%.
Yes. Yeah.
Community leaders, healthcare providers, and yes, even reformed influencers can play a role in correcting misinformation. It does not help that our government has actively experimented on people of color in our society. This is not a conspiracy theory.
And institutions.
Yes.
And in prison.
Yes.
All
this
these
is
things.
all easily, look it up.
Yeah.
Look it up if you don't believe me. So I get in certain communities vaccine hesitancy because of history and past abuses. Yeah. Totally understand. We fucked that up. White people did this. So here's the bottom line. Again, vaccines do not cause autism, but the belief that they do continues to cause harm. So what can you do? So if you're a parent with questions, talk to a pediatrician you trust. Don't go on YouTube. Don't go on the internet. Don't talk to that crazy teacher I mentioned. Talk to a doctor. Yeah. If you're online, be skeptical of anecdotal claims. Like you said, like Reddit and all that shit. They're full of claims. When RFK had the hearing recently where a bunch of families came in and brought their disabled children claiming that their disabilities, autism, whatever the case may be, was associated with vaccines, people are caught up in that emotionally. Yes. These parents are upset, justifiably so. Yeah. But it's not the vaccines. No. So don't get caught up in these anecdotal claims. So especially when they're not backed up by actual evidence. So share reputable sources like CDC, what is it again? What does WHO stand for again?
World Health Organization.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Totally. Brain's still not on.
That's okay.
Or peer-reviewed journals when discussing vaccines. As for these assholes in Washington propagating misinformation, here are some things we can do. Elect pro-vaccine legislators and health champions. Highlight evidence-based voices in Congress, such as those on the House Energy and Commerce Committee and Senate Help Committee. Support and amplify caucuses focused on public health, science, or childhood health. Those are the people you want to listen to, and you want to repeat what they're saying. Yeah. They know what they're doing. Yeah. So use nonpartisan, science-based messages. Frame vaccines as a public safety and economic security issue, not just a medical one, and not a Democrat versus Republican argument. So I know plenty of Democrats, plenty of hippy dippy people who are anti-vaccine or have known in the past. Yes. I don't associate with those people. So
where do they go?
Right? You want to use trusted messengers, pediatricians, this says veterans, clergy. I don't know about that necessarily. To brief lawmakers across the political spectrum. I want to rely on scientists.
That's weird.
And doctors.
I wouldn't put veterans and clergy and pediatricians.
I know.
That must be a massive cut and paste type.
I did not review that accurately. So sometimes AI will butt fuck you. So promote bipartisan language like vaccines keep our kids in school and our economy open. That's something that a lot of us want and can relate to. So publicly counter misinformation in hearings and media. So monitor public statements and hearings for anti-vaccine rhetoric. Organize rapid response teams of scientists, physicians, policy experts, submit op-ed letters to editors or testimony. Let me tell you, when the COVID pandemic hit, there is an amazing woman. I believe her name is Felicia Thibodeau. She is a community leader in the Lakeview area, which is a historically Black neighborhood in San Francisco. And there was a lot of vaccine hesitancy in that neighborhood. What did she do? She used her influence and the trust that she had with the community as a member of the community to influence her friends and neighbors and community members to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
And
that's
she
ethos
was
for good.
Tremendously successful. Yeah. So this is where it helps, where representation really friggin' matters.
Yes.
Because if it's somebody who doesn't look like you, and more importantly, from a community that has done your community harm using these same methods in the past, distrust is understandable. Of course. That's really the only communities of color that have been mistreated by our medical system. they're the only ones that I have sympathy for.
Absolutely.
At the same time, I'm like, come on, guys. I know. I know we fucked you in the past. This time we're for real. This time we're just trying to help.
Yeah.
I promise. Yeah. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. So Ronald Reagan, ew. So yeah, that's where it really it makes to have rapid response teams comprised of the people from the communities that they're reaching out to. Yeah. So important. Yeah. So, pressure elected officials through constituent mobilization, advocate for policy and funding measures like mandatory vaccine requirements for school and healthcare workers with narrow exemptions. Yeah. Like very narrow, like it could kill you.
Yeah.
So federal funding for immunization infrastructure and outreach campaigns, penalties for spreading vaccine misinformation, especially from government platforms or elected officials. I think that's a brilliant one. So, reclaim the narrative through campaigns, build coalitions with diverse stakeholders, like I said, track and expose elected officials who spread misinformation.
Okay.
Yes.
I tracked him. I exposed him.
You can create and publicize a vaccine misinformation scorecard tracking statements and voting records. Do your own work. Do your own research and demand accountability when officials host anti-vaccine speakers or share conspiracy content. So, our final thought around this is I'm so distracted by my child. Like moving the poop stool as loudly as he can.
And by the way, it's a stool that he uses for his feet when he poops. It's not a poop stool.
Yeah, it's this is what he stands on to brush his teeth.
A stool made of poop.
Oh no. Yeah, it's not a stool. It's not a stool made of stool. So anyway, distraction over. I think he's done. And I hear him washing his hands, which makes me, as a public health advocate, very friggin' happy.
Healthy GI system.
Yes. So final thoughts here, Carolyn. I mean, I would say the biggest takeaway is vaccines do not cause autism.
Yeah.
Respect your neurodivergent community members.
Get to know them. Check out Square Peg Foundation.
Yes.
Autistry support. They have a wonderful in San Rafael called the Makers Market, where you can actually buy amazing art and industry. I love it. Love it.
Yeah. Rather than making ill-informed or snap judgments about a community where you don't really know any members of that community, maybe get to know some members of that community.
Yeah, maybe get to know it.
Yeah. So
you might discover you are part of that community.
This is
which there is nothing shameful about that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So many of us are neurodiverse or who have had their brain chemistry changed by things like trauma, which is my situation. Yeah. And so a lot of my behaviors actually give spectrum. But
really?
I mean, to an extent, I would say, but it's really just my trauma.
Yeah.
Like I can't handle like chewing and noises around me and stuff, but it's just, when you grow up in an abusive environment. So sometimes it's hard to like disaggregate what
we all are trying to just fucking get by and let's make life a little goddamn easier. Yes. Different is good. Different is what has made some of the most amazing, beautiful contributions. Yeah. So I'm here for it.
Absolutely.
And also don't get caught if you're like, I think it's also like with anything, it's like, there's so many words. Yeah. Is it neurodivergent? Is it neuroaffirming? Is it, is it okay to call it spectrum? Is it, are you allowed to say Asperger? Like,
I can't keep up.
And that's okay. Yeah. So ask the person you're talking to.
Absolutely.
How do you identify?
Yeah.
How do you like, tell me about your experience. Don't get, and just learn.
Yep.
That's all that matters.
Yep. Absolutely. Learn, accept, love. Biggest takeaway. And please, for the love of, not God, for the love of science,
for the love of the hill,
listen to the telepathy tapes. You'll know what we're talking about when we say the hill. Please vet the sources that you're reviewing. Please don't listen to people like RFK. I know none of our listeners do, but there are some, you watch some of these documentaries, and if you haven't done your research, they seem very compelling.
Absolutely.
Very compelling. And, that same person that I don't talk to anymore because they believe that autism is associated with vaccines, I'll never forget. They were like, wait until the doctor is sticking your little, newborn baby with needles and see what it does to you. And I was thinking about that as Liam was getting his first vaccines and thinking, I'm so happy this is happening. Mm-hmm. Like a moment of a pinprick of pain, my child has a lifetime of protection. Mm-hmm. So her words did not ring true. Okay. Be careful who you listen to. Even somebody who might seem like an expert might be giving you falsified, debunked information, y'all. We live in an age of misinformation. We encourage you to do your research, follow the money, and make sure that these are peer-reviewed sources. The Lancet is the exception in this case because it is a peer-reviewed journal, scientific journal, medical journal, from what I understand.
Yeah, something weird must have happened.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't trust, whatever.
Who knows? Anyway, that's all we have to say about that, folks. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be coming at you more regularly now, provided we don't get any more plagues, diseases, etc.
And we thank you, however you found us.
Yes.
Like, truly.
Yeah.
This is we're almost at 3,500 followers.
On TikTok.
TikTok.
Speaking of, follow us on TikTok, TwatJC. We're also on Instagram at The World According to Jen and Carolyn. Yeah.
We're on YouTube.
We're on YouTube. I got to keep up with the YouTube shit.
Yeah,
I can't
keep
up.
Anyway. I fell off of it too.
All right, I'm going to go bronchitis cough somewhere. Thanks for listening. Love y'all. Bye.